Well, I'm finally here with Colin from MiLegalize, and we are going to go over a few questions that people in my audience and people that were signing petitions out there had for MiLegalize. This is a rare opportunity where we get to actually talk to somebody from the campaign. Um, I don't know if you knew that I tried to talk to somebody at the Cannabis Cup. I might have told you the story, and the coalition people kind of sent me on a goose chase looking for somebody for MiLegalize there. Never did find them, but they kind of wanted me to send the questions to an official person with coalition and have them vet the questions and all that. And I kind of wanted to just talk to MiLegalize first because that's where I was for like last year's campaign, and I've been doing updates on everything that's been going on with that. So
Yeah, no
that's
problem.
where we are.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Not all the questions are mine. Like I said, some of these came from social media followers, friends, families, cannabis business insiders, and locals who are not part of the medical marijuana program but feel strongly about legalization and decriminalization. So let's just get right into it. So we just came up with this one here. If the old campaign had a Supreme Court case pending, which probably won't even see the light of day. But just really quick, if that did come in, what would you say would happen? Would the MiLegalize decide to go with the old language if the Supreme Court said that they won? Or would they go with the new language if they did collect enough signatures to get on the ballot for the new petition?
Right. I think that if we did win like a Supreme Court case, which is probably not going to happen, it probably won't ever be heard. But I think that a lot of people would be excited about it, and there'd be a possibility of it being on the 2018 ballot. But I highly doubt it, just because there's so many other parties involved into this new coalition to regulate marijuana like alcohol, and I think that they've worked so much newer, updated laws in regards to like what is happening right now with the medical marijuana facility program to keep the coalition to regulate marijuana like alcohol on the 2018 ballot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason that that there is this court case in the Supreme Court, in case anyone don't know, is that they got more than enough signatures last year, but then the state imposed this 180-day rule on the campaign.
Yeah.
Have you been informed or notified by the canvassers, the board of canvassers, that this 180-day limit is going to be applied on the current campaign?
Yeah, there is going to be a 180-day limit on this campaign. It started May 26th, and I think it ends around November 20th. But at the pace we're at, we're gonna try and make sure like that all the signatures are turned in at least before like the end of October. In case we do want to like turn in early and we're above that 253 mark on valid signatures. This law is kind of like new, and it's imposed on all ballot initiative issues. So the prevailing wage campaign is also under this 180-day window, and so is Shutdown Line 5. And even I've heard recently that it's not submitted yet, but there's a gerrymandering petition.
Yes.
It's going to be a constitutional amendment, and that'll also be under that 180-day window.
Yeah, before the only way the 180-day window was applied was for stuff that was aiming for a constitutional amendment, and so I guess they just upgraded that. Okay, another question I've been getting a lot is the campaign paying for people to circulate petitions?
Yes, we are paying people to circulate petitions. If you are looking to circulate and be paid for it, it's through National Petition Management, and to sign up to them, you can go to regulatemi.org and note that you'd like to be a paid petitioner. But also you can email them at npm1450@outlook.com. They aren't going to the northern part of Michigan, and they're mainly stuck to the larger cities in the south part of Michigan: Detroit, Flint, Lansing, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ann Arbor. But yeah, they're part of the coalition too.
Okay. So
And
I'll put the
I was gonna
links
say
for that down in the
Yeah.
description below.
And MiLegalize is basically in charge of the volunteers in this petition drive.
Yeah, the coalition lady that I seen at the Cannabis Cup did say that, and I forgot to put it in my questions, but I was going to ask about that. So, with MiLegalize is in charge of that, but I'm seeing that you guys are doing a lot of like the speed of the campaign is really good right now.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of volunteers outside the MiLegalize umbrella even?
Well, there's also like Michigan Normal, and some people might be like more involved with Michigan Normal than Michigan Legalize.
It's kind of like an age thing.
But really, the most of the signatures are actually brought in through NPM, National Petition Management, because they're being paid, and so people are like, this is their real job to go out and ask people to collect signatures. So that's one of the main driving forces of the campaign. And I've kind of referred a lot of people to National Petition Management because just because like you want to be paid to be a petitioner doesn't mean like that's not like activism.
Right.
And some people just need the money more than others to petition. They feel passionate about it, and
they tried to pay us last year.
Yeah, and so last year, like, Michigan Legalize was more involved with paying petitioners, but it's actually kind of more like of a relief that we don't have to pay for petitioners, because then like people will be calling me at like 4 a.m. asking for like a $40
I never
check.
asked, but after the campaign, after they after they did their in-house audit or whatever they do, they basically they kept trying to pay us, and we're like, we just did it for fun, really. We love it,
I was one of those people who just kind of showed up to do it for fun, and they kept trying to pay me, and eventually I gave in.
Okay, now I guess we're going to get into the more of what people are asking.
Okay.
So, in your opinion, has the coalition of legalization organizations that came together in the final thing to make the final petition, did they keep the ballot initiative enough like the 2016 language to still be considered in the spirit of the original MiLegalize, and kind of why or why not?
Well, for the most part, I think we did, because it's still like decriminalizes marijuana in a lot of ways that most other states don't have. We still allow for we don't touch the Medical Marijuana Act, and that's the one thing we did with the other one, is that we didn't want to put in like a hole that like politicians can go down and change the Medical Marijuana Act. It's not as like free market as like the first one, where like caregivers could sell their overages to the medical to marijuana facilities, and that is kind of because of the new MMFLA law that went in, and if you're not familiar, which I'm sure you probably go over on the Daily Dope Show.
Oh yeah, all the time.
It kind of really what's going on in Michigan right now is caregivers are about to like come to a point where they're not going to be able to sell their overages to the dispensaries, because technically, like, before
won't touch it.
or provisionary centers aren't legal until about December or so.
When the license applications should be available.
And so what we have kind of like put into this ballot initiative is stuff like these micro business licenses, where like you can grow up to like 150 plants in-house, process it, and create your own edibles, tinctures, and whatnot, to sell out the front door. And caregivers, like right now, like if you're a max carded out caregiver, you can have 72, and like if you have someone else who lives with you, you might be able to get away with a 144, but that's like depending on where you live, because a lot of townships, if you have more than 72, they're gonna like come in and raid you. But like this gives you like double as much as the caregiver, and you're allowed to sell it to anyone who comes in the door, not a person with a medical card,
Right.
but any person, whether they're from like Florida or Texas or right down the street, as long as they're 21 years of age.
Not on the script again, but Canada, I think, is Canada the one? They're one of the places I think that are trying. I don't know with what degree of success to make the legal age 18 instead of 21.
Yeah,
Was
they
there
are.
ever any kind of exploration to do that with MiLegalize or the coalition's plans or anybody's?
Yeah, I think it was a polled question, and people tend to be like respond more to 21
Yeah, we're
as
still
an
there
age
then.
as like not compared to 18. I mean, I'm like okay with like 18-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most marijuana crimes are written for people under 18 even,
Yeah.
so you know,
Yeah.
it's not really helping them. But anyway, that was just a quick thought. So this is probably the number one thing that people that don't really read into it always have is, and I think you already answered it with the micro business or even a small grower's license would probably be pretty easy to obtain. What do you say to someone who claims that this is good for big corporations and the state, well, not so great for grassroots cannabis activists? And now, as far as the state goes, it don't look like you guys the taxes are really like overbearing,
No.
in my opinion.
Yeah, like the taxes really they can't exceed 10% on recreational marijuana. And like that's
Far lower than any other
yeah,
legal state right
that's
now.
far lower than any other legal state. And what I was gonna say is like these aren't like giant cannabis corporations with like 20,000 plant grows that can like fill the like empty Kmart in town and
Right.
blast like put all these caregivers out of business and all other marijuana competition. These are like medium size, like to small business. The lowest grow, I can't remember, I think it's like 100 plants or so. I know it doesn't require like a secure transport license with it
Right.
too. And but these bigger ones, like 1,500 plants, isn't like a substantially huge business or mega corporation. And there's going to be a lot of different regional markets that you can't really tap into if you're not in that region. So that's what I would say to those people, that this is kind of more grassroots, it's more locally driven, and it's more locally grown cannabis that will be consumed.
Perfect. Okay, what are these? Why are there so many similarities between the state enacted Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, the MMFLA, and this proposal?
Okay, so we do have some similarities, like the grow licenses and
The 5 different facilities.
licenses. And what we tried to do is kind of replicate it in a way that it could be looked at by the regular voter, not more or less like marijuana enthusiasts like you and
Right.
myself. People who aren't involved in cannabis reform, to like look at it and say, oh, like this is reasonable, like we're doing this at a reasonable like level already with the state in regards to medical marijuana. Also, like it's going to be go through LAURA, licensing and regulatory affairs, so we'd like to keep it like similar for them. When they do start handing out the licenses, they kind of understand how it's going already.
Right.
And whatnot.
I didn't think there would be a problem with that kind of attitude out there, but I just ran into it twice. Like, first of all, I live in Vienna Township, and they just voted to not have licensing facilities under the MMFLA in Vienna Township. And, you know, I couldn't really understand why, because if you look at the regulations they have, they're really stringent. There's like background checks. I mean, there's nothing really. And then I overheard a corrections officer at a liquor store talking about marijuana brings in good people, but it also brings in bad people. And, you know, I don't understand the logic.
Yeah.
He didn't read, and I asked him, did you even read the regulations? Because they're written by the state, and they're really stringent, and you really can't, I can't imagine anywhere where bad people are going to be involved in those facilities acts, unless you're talking about corrupt, really rich people.
Yeah, right. Most of these people that talk about that really don't know anything about marijuana and have been conditioned to like believe that
he even
like,
said that
evil.
he's involved in the industry, whatever that means. Like he's like, I'm involved in the industry, so I don't hate it, or I'm not against marijuana. So what I think is he's a caregiver also, besides being a corrections officer. But you know, like that's why he thinks there's good people and then there's bad people too. I mean, there's bad people around anything with money involved.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, yeah, I don't know, the perception, I guess we're just not there. And to kind of look like, in my opinion, the way that the similarities between this and the MMFLA, it does look like there's more freedoms on obviously on the MiLegalize side. And when you look at the MMFLA, it's really tied down. Like you said, there's even a grower's license where you don't have to worry about the secure transporters. Not in theirs, and theirs is just all around more reliant on municipalities to form their licenses or whatever. So I did have a question myself about that. Like it seemed like in the ballot language there was a little bit of a kind of like recommending extra regulations around like hemp licensing and stuff like that. Is that still in this language, or was that the original draft?
No, actually, hemp. Glad you brought that up. Hemp is kind of unregulated when it kind of kicks off, and it's really going to be quite interesting. We don't really know what there is going to be like coming out of the hemp. I don't think there's like any hemp processing licenses or anything in it, and it's kind of gonna be a mystery of how like the hemp unfolds, whether it's like just like to begin with like people making like rope and garments out of it, or like I'm not seeing like huge textile plants popping up overnight, or
right,
anything like that,
or even just the processing, because it's a
Yeah.
lot of equipment, right, to
Yeah.
process it.
But people will be able to grow it right away as long as they order the seeds that require the 0.3%
Right.
THC or
less.
or less. Which there's a couple phenotypes I know that are out there and that you can buy from like France and China
Mhm.
and even
I've
Canada.
seen the China
I think.
ones. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's a this is a question about the secure transporter thing.
Okay.
I was going to talk about the seed to sale tracking, but it's not in the ballot language, and whether or not it would be applied to this is just kind of like we don't know.
Yeah, we kind of don't know.
Okay, so what about what prompted MiLegalize to include the secure transporter component of the MMFLA into the proposal? And I've seen the secure transporter thing pop up in Nevada. Arizona's proposal had it. There's a couple of medical marijuana states now that are looking at it. I'm not sure where it comes from or why it's a thing. I know there's always interest trying to get in on the pie.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
Well, one, I know that most of the people at MiLegalize were not for the secure transport being in there, but what I'd say is, again, like you got to like look at it from the regular voters' point of view,
Mhm.
and they don't really understand like marijuana culture like you and I do, and it would just kind of more or less benefit like them to know that like there is someone who's going to like move it around. Like with a micro business, it kind of like skips that step, and some of the like smaller grows, but the like larger ones, they wanted to include the secure transport, and I believe that in the proposal, like recreational marijuana facilities will be able to have their own secure transport license to drive between grows and facilities and processing facilities. But we're trying to, like, most people think it's like this shadowy oligarchy that like is going to come in and take all the licenses and then they'll be the ones in charge of like the middleman marijuana and how like it's collected, but how it, and distributed, but that's not really how it's going to go. A lot of people just think it's another kind of big marijuana or a big corporation trying to come in and steal, but yeah, I don't think that it's going to end up like that.
Okay.
And but yeah, more or less, regular people want to like have this kind of like, or feel more secure, and can sleep at night.
I'm thinking regular people like that don't even, normally on a daily basis even want marijuana to be legalized. But if it was on the ballot and they seen something like that, they're not going to vote no. They might vote yes just because it sounds like, hey, this is wrapped up really tight and you're not going to see it outside of the regulated areas at all.
Yeah.
I can understand that. Now back to the micro businesses. A micro business, again, in case you don't know, is everything under one roof. You grow it, you process it, you can sell it out the door at that facility. On that note, I guess we can bring this as a yes or no question. Would the compliance auditing inspections mentioned in section 11 item D apply to the micro businesses?
Yeah, I think so. They just don't it's more or less quality control. I think that like section goes on.
So these aren't like the police coming in to count your plants and stuff?
No, I think it's more or less like making sure like there's no like mold in things, and I know there's like stuff you can add to like the plants to make them smell better.
Right, or even fertilizers. A lot of people wouldn't want to see used.
Yeah.
Or pesticides.
Yeah. I don't know who that number is.
Okay. All right. Quick thing about the decriminalization in this. There's a section in the back talking about the penalties for breaking regulations as described in section 15 item 5 are as follows, and it basically it's a graduated system. The first time it's a $500 fine and the forfeiture of marijuana. Second is a $1,000 fine, forfeiture. These are both civil infraction type things. It's not really a crime. But then the third one becomes a misdemeanor, and then the fine is $2,000, and also the forfeiture of the marijuana. Are the police the intended enforcers of these regulations? Kind of, again, like, how would they know if you had too many plants or if they catch you with too many things? I mean, in a house inspection or something like that. Because this is recreational marijuana where you're allowed to grow 12 plants at home and have like 10 ounces.
10. Well, you're allowed to.
Oh, your harvest.
No, you're allowed to keep all of your harvest.
Uh-huh.
And but you can actually have up to 10 ounces at home of someone else's grown marijuana. Also, like so when it comes to like inspectors, like we were talking in the last question, the inspectors of like the marijuana facilities would be the ones, not the police, to like go in and check facilities. I'm guessing like what we're trying to do is like make sure like there's no more raids in a way, and if someone does grow like a 13th or 14th plant, like they're just taking away the 13th and 14th plant.
So they're not forfeiting all the marijuana.
They're not forfeiting all the marijuana. It's just whatever is like the overages, or if you're allowed to carry 2.5 ounces on you outside of your home. So like say you were like pulled over with like 4.5, well they take away those 2 ounces from you and then give you that fine. Yeah, that's kind of what I think answers that kind of question.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And again, on the third time being a misdemeanor, does this don't go beyond that? But I mean, would it just stay at misdemeanor, or is this like
I think it just stays at misdemeanor. I don't think it goes into felonies, and but I'd say it's kind of be hard to get like up to that level to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, a home, especially a home situation where somebody's just growing or possessing at their home. I mean, how many times are the cops coming to your house anyway?
Yeah.
All right, so Is there anything retroactive about this proposal as far as anybody that's currently convicted, charged, or incarcerated for the activities that they deem as legal in the event of this proposal as enacted? Basically, I haven't seen anything in there that does.
No, it doesn't like.
But you were talking about what MiLegalize themselves might want to try to do in the future as far as drug testing.
Yeah.
And
So like Michigan Legalize, and in this proposal there isn't like no, it doesn't get rid of like your past marijuana crime, but Michigan Legalize may like continue to like stay around after this election just to like address these other types of marijuana issues that are pressing to us, kind of like getting rid of these past marijuana crimes and drug testing marijuana in the state of Michigan, and there's several others I could name, but yeah, we hope to like stick around in the coming years, and if we can grow this like grassroots network large enough, it might be a lot easier next time to like collect enough signatures to put a referendum on the ballot. Yeah.
I mean, I have total confidence that after this campaign, MiLegalize will still be around. It's a pretty powerful coalition, and MiLegalize itself as an individual organization is, I mean, they've proven beyond a doubt that they're a thing, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so I've seen I've seen an article recently about the current campaign, and one thing that jumped out at me was the byline that said that as far as signatures go, the campaign is way ahead of schedule, and more than 100,000 signatures have already been collected. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I'd say that there's probably more than 100,000, like, because that was last week, and I know yesterday there was tons of signatures still, like, I've seen that have yet to be turned in, and there was a ton that I have yet to turn in, so, like, yeah, we're way ahead of, well, we're not way ahead of schedule, but we are ahead of schedule, and, but we can't like slow down.
No.
We need to like still like stay ramped up, and this is like the time like to collect signatures, like August and September and October. Like once you're getting into November, it's gonna get kind of cold, and not many people want a petition out there. Yeah, and so yeah, we're over 100,000 now.
That's awesome. Now we have a couple of comment section comments. And if you would like to speak on those,
Sure.
I'll go ahead and read the comments first. I'll just read one at a time. Okay, I'm just like you. I read what they posted, meaning MiLegalize, about this. This was a comment on the one about when MiLegalize wanted some response for when they wanted public comments about the ballot language, and that was the one before this.
Okay.
So the draft before that.
Yeah.
Yep. When we were writing the MMM language, we tried to define it with the least gray areas that we could, but yeah, after we found the court's definitions ended up making more so-called gray areas, laws are made and the words within it are not defined till someone goes to jail, fights it through the courts. Then it is defined. Shame. Thousands go to jail, fined, or both happens, but from what I read in their post, I would never vote for it. This is a corporate money drive legalization. Now, I did answer it myself and say there was a lot of gray areas, like they didn't say anything about overage in the original law. Dispensaries and medibles were not included, so there were obvious gray areas in the original medical marijuana law of 2008, so I don't know where he was coming from there with the least amount of gray areas. It was a really small, package as far as the language was. But what would you say about that? I know you already answered kind of about the corporate thing. But...
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, this is different from the Medical Marijuana Act, and that it's a lot longer, and that we have like a lot more definitions and words in it that are more specific, and it's kind of a little bit more tighter, so to speak, in different areas, so that we can't like have these gray zones where like stuff's like added in after court battles and stuff like that. Also like this isn't like, we're not like a big marijuana corporation that's trying to like come in. We're trying to open up the market for a bunch of small to medium-sized corporations to like actually participate in a legal market.
So if Kevin Sabat says that you are big marijuana, like big tobacco, then he's full of shit.
Then he's full of shit, yeah.
Do you even want to do this one?
If you want to.
All right.
Tim, this one's for you.
I get this a lot, and I've talked to you several times on several message boards, and I'm not sure if I met you at the debate last year between Hillary and Bernie, but I met up with a bunch of my Michigan Abrogate people in the parking lot, and I've talked to you guys online countless times. Strong Meds, if you can't remember that. But so Tim had a concern. He wrote a few comments, and he said, here he goes. I'm the guy behind Abrogate Michigan and actually ending prohibition. Let's chat. Moving arrests to different categories where they'll skyrocket is not ending prohibition. It's legalizing prohibition 2.0. I have the solution improved petition from last year. I have not seen a new Abrogate petition this year, by the way, or even a proposed one, or their website's still not up, so I don't know what he's referring to. But a more true civil rights piece that will end prohibition, not just a bait and switch for more arrests. And make no mistake, MiLegalize has been working to cut everybody out with their little crew, which does not include the likes of folks like you or I. No, just before you go into it, all I said to this was that, you know, this isn't like the medical marijuana law where they didn't do any kind of decriminalization at all. You know, it was just like, here's some new rules to go by, and good luck if they kick your door in. You don't really have a defense. So that's all I said about that. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say like, look, I agree that like eventually, like I'd like to see like no tax on marijuana and no one like ever be like arrested for anything, like, but we're not there yet, and it takes like steps like up the stairs to get to that point, and the Medical Marijuana Act of 2008 is just like a step on the ladder. And this is just another one that like we have to go up to like reach a point where we don't have to tax marijuana or like let as many people grow as much as they want. I'm guessing more like hemp, but like not flower. And I think that that what this will do though is it'll start to stimulate our economy rather than like it's kind of like been stagnant for like a long time, and it has like gone up since like the Medical Marijuana Act, but I think it will stimulate it more and put more people to work and less people out of jail, and it'll also like cause the door to be open for more of these conversations about marijuana, medical marijuana, and just recreational marijuana in normal voters' lives who aren't always like associated with marijuana. Yeah, it opens that door, and it'll be able to like shed some better light on it, and so that's what I'm advocating. Again, I'm not like against Abrogate Michigan, but I don't think they've been heard by the Board of Canvassers. I haven't seen any drafts or any like outreach and input to like what it should be. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
One more thing I would say about it is it just seems like with this approach here, as opposed to abrogation of prohibition, supply and demand might be a little bit better handled without black market activity. And I know under an abrogate system there wouldn't be black market activity because everything would be above board, like legal, and you could go sell bud to somebody if you want and nobody would tax it and all this good stuff. But how is that incentivizing people to actually meet the demand that's out there?
Yeah.
And then we might get stuff like people having to still run it across state lines and stuff. I don't know, maybe not. I know that the people that already grow would like to grow more, but I don't know if, like you said, the public is not there. In fact, they're not even there with the Facilities Act that the Republicans in Lansing just passed last year. So to say that you're going to get enough signatures on that ballot proposal, right? Plus, in this climate, I don't know, man.
It's a constitutional amendment, I believe, too, and so
you
that's
have
like
to-
316
thousand.
thousand
316,000. That's almost another 100,000 more.
Yeah, in a same window.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Colin,
no.
for coming by. Nice to talk to you. Everything, this worked out better than I thought it would, and
Yeah.
I think all the questions I've had and I've seen have been answered.
Cool. Thanks for having me, and anytime, man.
No problem, man.
Yeah,
I
just-
probably will have you again
Cool.
next time something cool happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's it, guys.